I think the calculus has now changed. I did not anticipate this being something that was real or realistic. First of all, the game wasn't even on the schedule to start the year, right? That got added because of the Butler thing. But it has to change after a loss like that. It does. This team is far worse than we anticipated. It's the roster, the team, far worse shape than what we actually anticipated. Going into the year, man, these are the things that if we're talking about Bruce Weber's job security that he had working in his favor. One, he's at a place where the expectation levels are high, but not blue blood high, and had just won a league title 2 years ago in a league where nobody wins the league besides Kansas, the in-state rival. So he's got that cachet. Number two, it's a pandemic. So with a new roster and less practice time and less time to be together and develop chemistry, you're going to get some forgiveness, at least from the athletic director. Maybe not the fans so much, but from the athletic director, you're going to get some forgiveness because of the pandemic circumstances. Three, there's a pandemic. And so with the pandemic, not only do you get some forgiveness, but the universities are a bit cash-strapped right now. And Bruce Weber still would have a $2 million buyout at the end of this year. All of that, to me, told me Bruce Weber has ultimate job security through this year. Everybody knows it's going to be a struggle because of the pandemic, because of the newness of the roster and lack of cohesion. And clearly there's been a public commitment, I would say, made by Gene to say, hey, needs to have a chance to rebuild things. Getting a second opportunity to do that. That's been the public posturing with it. Nobody anticipated this. And it's not just that the loss happened and that this loss is as bad as any that I've seen in my lifetime, for sure. But it's also just what this does to the fan base and how this amplifies frustrations around the program. I brought this up in the open, but there are a lot of people who were just apathetic about K-State basketball and not thinking about it much, perhaps not watching it much, that peeked at the score last night and said, what is this? And now they're alive. And now they're angry. Now they're fired up. The fan base has been awakened. And it's a fan base that right now is very, very frustrated because we are in the midst, by the way, of what I think is the worst month of K-State sports in my lifetime. I mean, I went back and tried to look through it all. Off the top of my head, at least going way back to the early 90s. I could not tell you that there was a worse month for K-State fans to deal with. So this is a fan base that's like splintered, upset, and looking for a reason to unite, and it would appear that now they've got reason to unite, and that's reason to unite around wanting change with the men's basketball program because of what just happened. And Gene Taylor is not beholden specifically to fans, but there are fans who have money. We call them donors. I don't know what the temperature of that room is going to be and how much of a push there would be made or how much of an effect that will actually have, but it's something. And even the general fan population, if the heat gets cranked up, that can absolutely affect your decision-making. So that's a self-inflicted wound from last night that's absolutely a reality now. And that's a big part of why the calculus on Bruce Weber's future did change. I would compare it to, see if you like this one, Mitch. Now, I'm going to use radio broadcaster terms here with finances, okay? So you have some money saved up, and you say, well, I have everything budgeted out correctly, and I know that even if I lost my job or it's like something happened here, I've got enough to last me 6 months, right? I know my plan is sound. I've got 6 months of extra cash here. I'll be okay. All logic would tell you that. Well, guess what? Your car just broke down. Now you need a new transmission. There goes your savings. No longer do you have 6 months ready to go, like locked and loaded. Your plans have now changed. That has been something totally unforeseen that has now altered the reality. This was something very unforeseen that to me, has now altered the reality here. I would compare it to, it would have been about 5 years ago, because I'm almost through my car payment. I was driving this old 2003 Ford Taurus with a dent in the front of it from a deer that the previous owner had hit that I just never got fixed. And I had maybe like a couple $1,000 saved up at that point in time, or maybe a little more than that, $3 or $4 grand, something like that. And I'm driving to go on a trip to go to the airport, and my car just side of the road, dunzo. I thought I was good to go, man. Radio broadcaster getting his start. I don't need that much money. I'm basically living a college lifestyle still in Manhattan. I've got a couple grand saved up. I'm good. Well, now all of a sudden I've got to get a new car. Now I've got a down payment and a car payment to make. Calculus changed. Unforeseen. Think that's the territory that we're in here.
The analogy I was thinking of is just because I watched an episode of it last night was the show Bar Rescue. You ever watch that with John Taffer? Goes in and saves a bar because they're struggling big time. And it's usually the same story where it's either the owner or the manager that's just running the place absolutely poorly, or the employees are not meeting the standards that it should be to run a profitable business. And the common theme is these people are in a ton of debt. They're losing thousands of dollars every month, and now they try to climb their way out. And in a way, I relate it to what's going on with K-State basketball, because now it feels like they have hit rock bottom. It's only up from here, but they need help to climb out. They're in such debt right now with the K-State fan base that it might start getting a little bit crazy on how to try to climb out of this. They got to try all they can at this point to just win a ball game, with Milwaukee coming in on Friday, which, by the way, if you want the stress to pile up on Bruce Weber, this is his alma mater that's coming in on Friday.
Mitch, I'm not there are a lot of fans that there's no climbing out of the hole. The hole has closed. Bruce Weber has fallen into the hole, and the sand has come in and piled on top of him. There's no climbing out. With some, if you want enough, I suppose there's climbing out. But nothing that we've seen so far this year would indicate that they have a very good chance of hitting that point. I think the bigger question here is, what's that point for Gene Taylor? Not the fans, because I just don't know that there's going to be any satisfying, short of beating Kansas. Beat Kansas, throw together 5 or 6 Big 12 wins, maybe something like that. Maybe that does it for the majority of the fan base, but I don't know. Nothing we've seen this year would indicate that they are capable of that. Let me accentuate that point. I don't know anything about Milwaukee. Nothing. Who's Vegas have as the favorite in that game? Who do you think? Who do you think Vegas is going to put as the favorite in that game? It's Milwaukee. Milwaukee coming in here to Bramlage. Who do you think Vegas makes the favorite?
I didn't want to answer that question.
I know what I would choose.
Yeah.
I know what I would choose.
Everybody that visits Manhattan should be the favorite right now.
Ken Palm. Basketball analytics site. It's great. They give a percentage chance to win every single game. They have their little algorithm for every game. You can go look at it right now. I have not checked it since the loss last night. Before the loss to Fort Hays State, the highest percent chance it gave K-State of winning a Big 12 game this year was 32%. And that was Iowa State here in Bramlage. It's the highest, 32%. They had the Fort Hays State game because Fort Hays is not in their database. They only keep Division I schools. They just go ahead and throw up a 100% next to the name of a D2 school. K-State broke Ken Palm last night because they had it as a 100% chance to win. Whoops. Things have changed. This is not me calling right now for the outright change, but the environment has definitely become different after last night. This got a hell of a lot tougher for Bruce to climb out of.